Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tristan. Thank you to the Kauffman Foundation for supporting this. And thank you, millionaires, for joining me today. It's so glad to be with you guys. And my goal here is to tell you about BrainPod. The goal of this presentation is informational, and I hope by the end you'll learn something of value and maybe agree why I believe I have the world's best solution to test preparation, specifically for higher ed. So before we start on this journey, let me clarify. There's an efficient way to study, which I'm going to share with you today, and there's an inefficient way to study. And the efficient way to study is practiced by the minority of students, and the inefficient way to study is what's used by most students. And so that leads us to the problem with higher education, which is that the inefficient way to study leads to overthinking and less good education outcomes. These are numbers for the United States, but worldwide, about 50% of students who start a higher education degree don't graduate. And I was one of those students, so I thought I would illustrate the problem and my solution to it with an anecdote. So it was an organic chemistry exam, and it was so hard, so challenging. So I looked up from my paper and just to refocus my attention. And to my surprise, I saw a few students smiling while buzzing through their exams. And then to my surprise, they got up, turned in their exams, still smiling, and left the room, all while I was still painfully halfway through my own test. And in that moment, then and there, I made the promise to myself this would be the last exam that I felt the feeling of failure on. And so when I finished my own test, turned it in, I went back into the hallway and I met up with those smiling students. And they were still going on in detail about each concept on the test. They were in such sync that I had to know how they did it. So I asked them, and their answer was study sessions, group study sessions. You see, when you study alone, it gets boring and concepts fly over your head. And this is a feeling that I was familiar with. And then those concepts that you studied are not useful on a test. But when you study together, excitement happens and those concepts become more memorable and therefore more useful on a test. And that's how I, along with the minority of students, finessed my way through higher education and I got a degree. So essentially, I confess that once I figured out this method of group study sessions, I never went back to studying alone. And so BrainPod uses the combination of an academic concierge, study sessions, as well as an academic liaison to create an ecosystem where the student has better graduation outcomes. And then after graduation, they can start earning more in a real job. And so across the world, millions of students at institutions worldwide are already participating in study sessions. While the disadvantaged students, maybe the introverts or people with a part-time job or people with a learning disability, are often left to get lost, fall behind, and unfortunately drop out. And that's why I'm pushing BrainPod so hard to be the authority for study sessions, because so that students with a disadvantage can connect with like-minded individuals. Uh, so of course, you don't want to hear me dragging on with all these buzzwords. Here's how it works. So pretty much first, the student gives information access to BrainPod. And then our academic concierge, this lovely robot here, goes into the student's portal, finds all the text and tokenizes it, and only takes what's useful. And using that information can get the due dates for assignments, the priorities for the student, when the tests are, and when projects are due. And so with that, they create a weekly list of concepts that's delivered right to the student on time. And for students who have the premium family plan, they'll be matched with an academic liaison. This is a real human being who's going to work with the academic concierge to get that list of concepts that the student needs to learn. And that means the academic liaison is aware of where the student is at any given week in the semester. And then with the videos and academic content that the academic concierge curates for the student, the academic liaison can make sure the student never falls behind. And so the academic liaison's goal, short and simple, is to enhance the academic journey of the student and to maximize savings in terms of tuition fees and other fees that universities charge. It's perfect, I think, for students who are not, who are first generation college students. And so the mission of BrainPod, my mission with BrainPod, is to help students in higher education take one extra course per semester, rather have the confidence to take one extra course per semester so they can graduate faster, which would save them thousands in tuition. And so I envision a higher education landscape where not just 50% of students graduate, because that's horrendous. 100% of students should graduate in my envisioned higher education landscape. That brings me to the three asks, and Tristan did a great job of telling y'all what I'm looking for. But if you look at the slide in front of you on the screen, you'll notice there are some products there on the table that I've added in just to illustrate that there are products out there that are non-educational but still target college students. And so these products can be used to enhance the group study session experience. And so if any of y'all are connected with a startup or a company that's targeting college students in any capacity, I would appreciate to make that connection, especially as we enter a post-pandemic world. Now is the right time to help students adjust back to life on campus and to, stimulate getting students into groups, which we call pods at BrainPod. And with that being said, I think I got, okay, so my first ask was to connect with the companies that target college students. But in addition to that, Tristan mentioned that if anyone has a foot in the door with the universities, I would appreciate it, whether it's Concordia University or even the UC or Cal State chains, any infrastructure at those universities that could help me get the word out about BrainPod would be appreciated. And last but not least, I don't have any mentors right now for this startup. I'm self-funding it. I've served over 10,000 students, but really we're going from the alpha test stage to the beta test stage. And anyone who has experience in that kind of a stage, I would appreciate if you connect with me on LinkedIn. With that being said, I just want to quickly show, if that's okay, the website that I've made for BrainPod. Let's see if I have it up here. So on BrainPod's website, for any of you who have connections with anyone who is in higher education right now, they can go to the student plan, and this is the price of the student plan. It's $12. Really, this is a one-year plan. So for students, it's like the ultimate economic bargain. It's $1 a month. And right now, if you know anyone who's in that position, if they buy it in one shot, so pay the $12 in full. Oops, I didn't mean to hit that button. But if they buy the $12 in full, I'll pay for all their textbooks so they don't have to pay a thing for their textbooks, and they'll even get BrainPod merchandise. So that's where I'm at with BrainPod. I hope I didn't go over or under the time limit. I'm gonna stop the screen share now. And so now that I stopped the screen share, I wanna say thank you to Tristan, 1 Million Cups, and also to the Master of Innovation and Entrepreneurship program, which groomed me for this kind of an opportunity. And without MIE's program, I probably wouldn't be here with y'all today. With that said, thank you all, and I'm gonna sip my cup of coffee.